Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here on this special and breaking news story. The Jaybefaunt channel is also part of Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you guys can find me on the JB Show on Sundays at 1 p.m. and on my regular show here every single Tuesday at 3 p.m., as well as you can find me on the Kind Connections podcast twice a month. Guys, good to see all of you here. Also, go ahead and get a like to the stream. This helps me out to be able to reach as many people as possible. Especially when it comes to breaking news stories like this. We have to cover these things because we have to basically shine a light on whatever our country is doing, whether it be good or bad. We have to be able to shine a light on these things. If you guys have not already, go ahead and subscribe to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. Gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles. And also, if you guys would like to ask me any questions, get any type of video reply or reactions to any videos that you find interesting, you guys can always do that at qbounty.com/Jaybefaunt. So you guys have that there. Good to see all of you guys here joining me for this. This is a breaking news story that is really just continues to develop further. There has been an attack on Venezuela by the United States. There has been an aerial military assault that has happened in Caracas in Venezuela starting early this morning. And so now the news developments are continuously unraveling as we speak. And there is going to be a press conference at 11 a.m. in Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump. And this is going to be very telling, especially at the events that has actually happened. TLDR for anybody who is just now finding out. Also, the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife, Cilia Flores, has been missing. There has been claims that they have been intercepted and kidnapped by the United States, which would constitute as a war crime, which is illegal under international law. That has not been confirmed by the United States. However, there has been claims, that has not been substantiated by the United States as far found as evidence. But there has been claims by certain top key figures, which we will get into in a minute. But the question is, why are we at war? And this isn't just a military conflict. This isn't just a targeted strike like a lot of people would claim. This is a literal war. The United States is at war with Venezuela. And I talked about this, during my last live stream, the last live stream of 2025. And we were basically talking about how the United States, via the CIA, led an attack on Venezuelan soil. Well, that attack has now escalated to now having an aerial military assault in Venezuela's capital. And now the Venezuelan president and his wife are now missing. And so it has escalated this far. This is very serious. And this is going to be hitting us hard here in the United States. Whatever the United States does abroad comes back and hits us at home. Now, as to why we're doing this, everybody who believes Donald Trump is saying, oh, well, it's because of drugs, because they think that somebody like Nicolas Maduro is a narco terrorist and he's head of this narco type of organization or operation. When in reality, the truth of why they're out there, the truth of why our military is doing the bombing missions and the shelling in Caracas, why they're doing this right now, has actually been out in the open for quite a while. Let me share this with you guys because this shows exactly what is going on and why it's going on. Let's listen to Southcom's leader, this general, talking about it.
Of course, the countries, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua with Russia relationships. Why this region matters with all of its rich resources and rare earth elements. You've got the lithium triangle, which is needed for technology today. 60% of the world's lithium is in the lithium triangle, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile. We just have the largest oil reserves, light sweet crude, discovered off of Guyana over a year ago. You have Venezuela's resources as well with oil, copper, gold, We have the Amazon, lungs of the world. We have the 31% of the world's fresh water in this region too. I mean, it's just off the charts. We have a lot to do. This region matters. It has a lot to do with national security, and we need to step up our game.
So, what nations did she list that the United States has had conflicts with or tried to do regime change in? Ones like Cuba, Bolivia, right? Remember when Elon Musk said in reply on Twitter, and yes, I still call it Twitter. I don't care about what Elon Musk wants to call it. I still call it Twitter. But he said, we will coup whoever we want, deal with it. And so also Argentina, but there's no need to do anything with Argentina because they already have a U.S. puppet named Javier Milei. So Javier Milei is basically doing what the United States wants anyway. So they don't need to do any type of regime change in Argentina. But who else is left? Venezuela, right? Venezuela has a government that is completely in opposition to Western interests, to United States corporate interests. And remember when I talked about the last live stream, it was really pushed by the big corporations who want access to those natural resources, like an ExxonMobil. And so now you're seeing the power behind our government, because it's not actually the government that's actually doing this. The power behind that's wielding the power of the government that's doing this. It is the ExxonMobils. It is the Teslas, right? It is the Apple. It is the various different military contractors. There's all these different corporations that are really wielding the power and using the United States government as a tool in order to take over these regions so that they can soak up all the resources for themselves and then sell it back to us at a premium. And so this is exactly what's happening. I also want to share this as well, because Donald Trump has basically said the quiet part out loud. And so I want to share this as well, so you guys see and hear exactly what Donald Trump has said. And my question to people who are in MAGA who say that they don't want any regime change wars is, have you been listening to your leader?
How about we're buying oil from Venezuela? When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil. It would have been right next door. But now we're buying oil from Venezuela, so we're making a dictator very rich. Can you believe this? Nobody can believe it. You know where the oil, their oil is garbage. It's horrible. The worst you can get, tar. It's like tar. And to refine it, you need special plants. And these people, how about we're buying oil?
What did he say?
From Venezuela. When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil. It would have been.
We would have gotten all that oil. It was never about the drugs. Never. If it was ever about the drugs, then Donald Trump would have shut down the CIA. Ask any black person that lives in the hood right now. We all know the truth. It's all been revealed. The drug war was literally started by the CIA. They were literally selling drugs in our neighborhoods in order to help fund the wars abroad. So if it was actually about drugs entering into our country, go after the real culprits, the Central Intelligence Agency. But they're not going to do that, because the whole thing about drugs is a cover. Also, if we're going to talk about drug trade, or we're going to talk about drugs entering into our country, why in the world aren't we going after the Sackler family after they decimated the United States with their drugs, namely OxyContin, and have ruined particularly the white community in this country? They have flooded the white community with opiates. And yet they're not going after the Sackler family. Makes you wonder, right? And so now this is an excuse to go after the oil. On behalf of whom? Is it on behalf of you? Is it to protect you? Oh, no, 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 no. Because meanwhile, while this is going on, your rent's going up. You can barely afford food at the grocery store. Your utilities are going up because a stupid ass data center's being built right now in your neighborhood that's going to be taking up all your water, polluting your water, and then making your utility rates go up higher. Are you going to be able to go to school? Can you even go to college? Well, no, that's out. And so all these different things that's affecting your life on a material level is being completely avoided. And you got people like Donald Trump saying, don't believe what you see in your bank account, just believe me. And look, we're getting all this oil from Venezuela. See, isn't it nice? But how is that translating into your pocket? Because everybody knows that these corporate dictators, even if they suddenly got all that oil from Venezuela, oil prices wouldn't drop. It's just all that savings would go up to whom? It would go up to them. They would keep the prices high because then that means that they can bring in more money. Let's get to this. Make sure I have this here. Shout out to Common Dreams for this one. They're always on it. It says Trump claims Maduro captured as U.S. bombs Venezuelan capital. The blurb says this goes beyond broken promises of peacemaking. Trump is launching an illegal assault on Venezuela. Let's get into it. The U.S. President Donald Trump claimed early Saturday, this morning, that Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was captured and flown out of the country after American forces bombed Venezuela's capital. Maduro's alleged capture came after multiple explosions and sounds of aircraft were reported in Caracas, including at a military base at the center of the capital. Following the explosions, Maduro declared a state of emergency and accused the U.S. of military aggression. The Trump administration has accused Maduro without evidence of heading a drug cartel. This is the point that I really want to push here. Without evidence. In a nation where we say you are innocent until proven guilty, that requires proof. And therefore, if they do not have proof of the claims that they are making, does this make the attack on Caracas, on Venezuela, legitimate? What actually has happened to Americans on our soil that Venezuela has done with evidence that warrants an attack against a sovereign nation? Because they can make claims and they can say, well, all these drugs come from Venezuela. Number one, you don't have evidence, real, actual, tangible evidence that it actually came from there. Number one. Number two, less than 5% of the drugs that enter the United States come from Venezuela. A huge chunk of it actually comes from other countries, and many of which who are actually in line with the United States, that are partnered with the United States. So when it comes to actually bringing in all these drugs, Venezuela is not even a blip on the radar. And yet they want it. Why? If you Google this right now, go ahead, do your own research, but Google this right now. Who has the largest oil reserves in the world? Is it a coincidence I think not. Let's continue on. Says Vladimir Padrino, Venezuela's defense minister, said the U.S. attacked both civilian and military sites. Who does that sound like? And that authorities are gathering information on casualties. Padrino said Venezuela will resist the presence of foreign troops and denounced U.S. imperialism and greed for our natural resources. They know exactly what's up. They know what it is. Venezuela's Attorney General, Tariq William Saab, said in the televised remarks that innocent victims have been mortally wounded and others killed by this criminal terrorist attack, and demanded proof that Maduro and his wife, who are also reportedly captured by the U.S., are alive. So, civilians have been hurt and killed. I want you guys to know how real this is getting. Take the poll that I have up, because I'm asking a question. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that the United States will lead a ground invasion? I'm going to tell you what I think in a little while. But if the United States does lead a ground invasion, I have my thoughts on exactly how it's going to go. But make sure to take that poll. Let's continue on. It says Trump, who in recent months has repeatedly threatened to attack Venezuela, oust its president and seize the nation's vast oil reserves, like we just showed there, provided few details about the military assault, which followed a months-long boat bombing spree in international waters. The U.S. president did not receive congressional authorization for any of the strikes, which is also illegal. He said Saturday's operation was carried out in collaboration with American law enforcement. In 2020, the Trump's first White House term, Maduro was indicted on narco-terrorism charges by the U.S. Justice Department, which at the time offered rewards up to $15 million for information leading to his arrest. Now, Trump said he's going to be having a press conference at 11 a.m. this morning, and we should still be live by that time, so I'm going to be live reacting to that press conference. So Trump said news of the attack on Venezuela was met with immediate outrage. So this is from the CEO for the Center of International Policy, from Nancy O'Kale, said this goes beyond broken promises of peacekeeping. Trump is launching an illegal assault on Venezuela, pulling the U.S. into another military adventure without authorization or credible national security threat. Congress must act now to halt further military escalations. And so this is exactly what we see going on as we speak. And so, as far as we know, right, everyone, there has been video after video coming out of people showing the bombings that has happened. And this is all because of what the U.S. is doing. The U.S. is just like Israel, right? Just like Israel, this is something that the United States is doing. And so Venezuelans are out in the streets right now. Let's go take a look at this. Because not only is the United States involved in this, but I want you guys to see who else is involved. Oh, the demon himself. Let's take a look.
We've had an unbelievable success by degrading Iran, which was a first-rate power. Now it's a second-rate or third-rate power. They were throwing their weight all over the place, exporting terrorism, not only to every part of the Middle East, but to Venezuela. They're in cahoots with the Maduro regime, you know.
Oh! The demon said, they're in cahoots with the Maduro regime. So here we have Here we have Beelzebub basically saying that, oh, well, we should go after Venezuela too. And you want to know something funny? BB Beelzebub here basically said, that's actually a nice name. I should call him that from now on, BB Beelzebub. Anyways, he's basically, every single time he says something about another country, the U.S. launches a war into that country. Remember what happened back in the 90s when he was like, Iran is only 2 weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. Iran is only 3 days away from having nuclear capabilities. Right? Remember when he said that? What happened after that? Oh, United States tried to go to a war with all these Middle Eastern countries, with all the countries in West Asia. Now Israel saying, oh, well, we recognize the country of Somaliland. And now the United States wants to get into there. Now he comes here to the United States. He steps his demon hooves on our soil. And then next thing you know, now the United States is bombing Venezuela. It's very interesting. Maria Corina Machado was basically saying, hey, Israel, come here. She was calling for them to strike Venezuela, her own country. And guess what? The United States is doing it now. Let's continue on.
Supporting terrorism to America, to the American hemisphere. And then they want these Hezbollah and Hamas.
Did he say American hemisphere?
Hezbollah and Hamas to get their guys into the United States. So Hamas and Iran's and its proxies are a threat not only to us, but to Israel, all America's allies in the Middle East, and to America itself. We've had an unbelievable success by degrading.
So ultimately, this is really an amalgamation of the West wanting to take resources. And make no mistake about it. It's not about actually maintaining peace. It is not about maintaining some type of international rules-based order, which the United States doesn't recognize whenever the United States wants to do whatever it wants to do. This is honestly and explicitly about extracting resources by force. Whether it's through the Democrats, it's extracting resources covertly by force, or it's through the Republicans overtly by force. It's still the same. And for everybody who's MAGA, have you waken up yet? Are you up? You all said, oh, well, Trump's going to be a peace president. Is this peace? Is this actually peace? Because as far as I see it, Donald Trump is just an orange Joe Biden. Don't come after me. I'm not a liberal. I'm no party affiliate. And those of us on the actual left, not liberals, the actual left, have been warning y'all that Donald Trump is not a peace president. He is not to be trusted. No politician is to be trusted. Absolutely not. And yet you guys, just like the liberals, decided to side with him because he said all the things that you wanted to hear. And then you guys get mad at all these billionaires that are stripping you of livelihood and material conditions when it comes to housing, healthcare, food, education. You guys are getting mad about billionaires, but yet you guys want to accept one billionaire, you guys think that Donald Trump is your benevolent billionaire. When thus on the actual left have been saying billionaires shouldn't exist at all. Are you awake yet? Because he does not care about your families. If there's a ground invasion, whose kids are going to go into Caracas? If there's a ground invasion, whose kids are going to be on that Venezuelan shore getting rocked, getting straight mollywopped by Venezuelans? Because trust and believe. People who have existed on their land for generations upon generations will fight to the death for their land. Whereas people who don't have connection to that land, they will take a dump in their diapers and flee. Just ask the IDF. So I'm telling you right now, this is going to be bad for America. Not Venezuela, America, the United States. Because all this Monroe Doctrine BS, like that dude was saying a few days ago when I was reacting to, saying it's our hemisphere, and now Netanyahu's saying the American hemisphere. And he didn't say it as in all the Americas. He meant it as the United States hemisphere, as if the United States owns the Western hemisphere of this planet, which is complete and utter bull. And this is part of that Monroe Doctrine of claiming that this country belongs to just this country. And anybody who doesn't do exactly how this country wants, they should be taken out. The United States is not the paragon of liberty and justice. Just ask Native Americans and Black Americans. Trust us, we know. Let's show this here too. Here's the hubris of Donald Trump. Let's get into this.
What was that? Getting land, oil rights, whatever we had. They took it away because we had a president that maybe wasn't watching. But they're not going to do that. We want it back. They took our oil rights. We had a lot of oil there. As you know, they threw our companies out, and we want it back.
Our oil? Our oil? You see this mindset? That's white supremacy. Our oil. Donnie, if it ain't under your feet, you don't own it, bruh. It's not your oil. It's not under your feet, so therefore you don't own it. It's not your land. So get off it. But yet you want to take it by force because ExxonMobil told you to. The cookery of it all. The puppetry of it all. Because ExxonMobil told you to. But that's something that he's not going to tell you. Because Donald Trump, just like Joe Biden, just like Kamala Harris, just like Barack Obama, just like George W. Bush, just like Bill Clinton, they're all puppets. Every single one. And by the way, most, if not almost all congressional members, especially on the Democratic side, are silent. They are like in the Beyonce song, everybody on mute. And this is the problem that we have within our political system because it's all complicit. It is all complicit in this. Because either they're going to be the ones that are championing the violence or they're going to sit aside quietly while the violence happens. And both sides are complicit in the violence. Because we all know silence is violence. And so here you have the seed of Chucky basically doing the thing that ExxonMobil wants him to. He's not doing what the people want. He's doing what the billionaires want because that's his buddies. The same people that are on the Epstein list. By the way, Bill Clinton's his buddy too. He just doesn't want y'all to know that. I can calm down. Let me share this too. Make sure this is big enough so you guys can read this. It says, just in, did Netanyahu push Trump to attack Venezuela? Fox News pundit says the U.S. attacks on Venezuela are for national security against Hezbollah and Iran, as well as Russia and China. Guess who else was saying this 4 days ago? Netanyahu. So let's get into this. We just showed what happened, but Netanyahu said, let's listen.
Venezuela has become a hotbed for every adversary of the United States to operate in the Western Hemisphere. Hezbollah has operations. The terrorist group Hezbollah, based in Lebanon, has operations that have been widely reported to be based in Venezuela. Iran is operating in Venezuela. Russia, China. It has become sort of the satellite state for the countries who we consider our adversaries and who are bent on trying to do everything they can to destabilize and undermine the West. So,
when they say undermine and destabilize the West, what they mean is undermine and destabilize multinational corporations that are actually trying to steal their resources. That's what they mean. They just don't want to tell you that. It's all for the sake of corporations. Never for the sake of the American people. It's never for making sure that your rent or mortgage is affordable. It's never to make sure that, you have a job with a livable wage, that you are able to save for retirement or be able to spend enough time with your family. Because if you're working 50, 60, 70 hours a week, then how much time can you really spend with your family? How many dads out there actually know the same amount of facts that their moms, that their wives know about their kids? I've seen a viral video about people, an interviewer approaching fathers and asking the fathers about when's their kid's birthday. And the fathers were struggling about when their kid's birthday was. And it's not like it was a young kid. It was like they're adult children. Like, when's your kid's birthday? And the dads are struggling to think about, when's my kid's birthday? Maybe because these dads, they don't get to spend enough time with their kids because they're working too damn much. Because they're overworked and they don't get enough time to spend with their family. If you really care about the rights of men in this country, then maybe we should be working so that everybody not only has a livable wage, but actually own the means of production, so then we can actually spend more time with our families, so dads can be dads. Isn't that an interesting concept? Hell, mothers can't even be mothers anymore because they're working so much. So now we just got a bunch of latchkey kids again. The only difference now is they're more stuck on electronics and social media than ever before because, well, they can't really go outside like they used to. And what the United States is doing is they're destroying the lives of another people just so that they can get their hands on Venezuela. Here is what happened the moment the U.S. decided to do what it did in Venezuela.
Y después van hacia arriba, ¿sí? Si es por parte de su madre o parte... boludo, se cortó la luz.
So this is what the people were going through in Venezuela. Is Venezuela going to be another Gaza? Are we going to allow that? And for all the people who talk about, well, we're against illegal immigration coming here to our borders. You're not against it enough, because if you're supposed to be against it, then you should be also against these foreign wars that are driving people to cross our border in fear. I'm just saying, you're saying, oh, we don't want these illegals coming into our country. Well, you're doing a heck of a job trying to keep them out by driving them back into the United States. That's your guy. And people who are liberals and support the Democrats, don't come here saying, I told you so. Don't do that. Because the same thing that that Donald Trump is doing, Joe Biden was trying to do more covertly, especially with sanctions and blockades and things like that, making it tougher on the Venezuelan people. Donald Trump and Joe Biden basically are cut from the same cloth. It's just a good cop, bad cop routine. And do not think for one second that Kamala Harris wouldn't do it. Oh, yes, she would. They're all a bunch of war hawks. So this is why it is important to be anti-imperialist, because once you become anti-imperialist, you look at both sides and say, oh, they're both trying to do imperialism. One's just trying to do it a different way than the other, but they're both aiming for the same thing. If I want to get to California right now, I can get there either by plane or by train, but either way, I'm still on my destination to California. Right? What is the goal of a Donald Trump and a Kamala Harris, or a Donald Trump and a Joe Biden? What's the goal? It's to get resources on behalf of whom? The big corporations. So ultimately, they're both in the same camp. How does that make you feel? You're supporting somebody that's just like the person you used to demonize, because they're all in the same club. I want to share this too. I saw this tweet, and this tweet was this guy's spot on. So, Sony Thang, thank you very much for this, says Venezuela is not the target, it's the distraction. When Americans can't afford rent, they're told to fear Caracas. When their cities decay, they're told socialism did it. When their wages stagnate, they're told Maduro is the problem. Empire is a magician. the trick is always the same. Make the audience stare at the foreign villain while the wallet disappears at home. Absolutely correct, because it's not going to be for you or me. It's going to be for the big corporations. Meanwhile, the gas prices continue to go up. The rents and mortgages continue to rise. Food becomes more expensive, so you're not able to eat as healthy as you used to, or as frequently as you used to. Education is going down, everything. But yet they keep telling you, oh, the reason why your life is so bad is because of scary Maduro, scary Kim Jong-un, or scary Iranians. That's what it is. And what you should be looking at is the big corporations that are actually making your life worse. And they're operating within a system that encourages that type of behavior. That was a wonderful tweet. But absolutely correct. Because that part of it is also the distraction. Venezuelans are speaking out. They are pissed. And rightfully so. Like, how are you going to do this to their country? They are a democratic country that democratically elects their own leaders.
De la República Bolivariana de Venezuela, y no vamos a permitir que ninguna bota yanqui, que ningún extranjero nos quite nuestro presidente, porque nosotros lo elegimos a él y con él nos vamos a quedar. Así que nos devuelven nuestro presidente. Maduro aguanta, que el pueblo se levanta. Maduro aguanta, que el pueblo se levanta. Maduro aguanta, que el pueblo se levanta. Unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
So as far as the United States is concerned, they just open up a huge can of worms. All for whom? All for people who don't really care, a damn about the U.S. people, the people in the United States. There's also something else I want to share too. There was a former soldier, a veteran, that actually spoke about this as well. Mark Wayne. And I want to share what he says regarding this. And to anybody that is serving in the military right now, you need to get out as safely as you can, but you need to get out. Here's what veteran Mark Wayne says.
Yo, so it's being reported right now that Caracas is under attack, getting bombed from the air, possibly from drones. There's been reports of blackouts. This is a message for all active duty. If you ever get this, I want you to know something, that America is not behind you. This ain't like the Afghan war and the Iraqi war, where you got to come home and be celebrated as a hero, have romantic movies made for you in Hollywood. Nah, America is like, what the fuck right now? So understand, if this ever I hope this gets to some fucking Navy dudes. If you are in the Navy, if you are in the Air Force, and you are behind the bombing of Caracas, Venezuela, America is not behind you. You will not be celebrated as a hero. You're a piece of shit. You are a piece of shit for following orders from fucking old, decrepit, corrupt men who are fucking over all of Americans right now. And now they're fucking.
Do you hear what he's saying? Knowing what we know on our devices, right? On our devices, and able to do this research. And unfortunately, they make all these promises of healthcare, housing, education, and things like that. But here's the thing, at what cost? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you engage in this conflict, you will not come home a hero. You will come home a villain of your own people. I'm telling you right now, this is not like the early 2000s during the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, where when soldiers came home and people were praised and hugged and things like that. We didn't have social media like that early on. Now we do. Now the news travels fast and broad and wide. And so therefore, if you do something over there, knowing what we know now, the American people will see you as a villain. They will see you as the stormtroopers that you do not see in the mirror. If you need to look in the mirror, and if you see that white helmet, this guy's basically telling you to take it off and leave. Because you're going to not only put yourself in danger, you're putting the American people in danger, and you're putting the lives of Venezuelans in danger as well. All for whom? All for ExxonMobil and these big military contractors.
Right now. And now they're fucking over Venezuelans. America is not behind you, U.S. military. We are not behind you. You will not be celebrated. You have the freedom to turn down orders right now. If you are taking orders to bomb Caracas and bomb Venezuela, a sovereign country, and killing civilians, bombing civilian infrastructure, attacking even military targets, you are violating every fucking law, not just man-made law. I'm talking about just the law of morality, the laws of the universe. If you are active duty, you have the ability to say no. You have the ability to turn down orders. I suggest you do so, because you will not be celebrated as a fucking hero. You will be seen as a piece of shit by all Americans, except your old fucks who are sitting in front of the TV watching Fox News.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so this is the big issue right now that a lot of people are faced with. I want to share this with you guys as well. Because now that since this escalation, this war with Venezuela is clearly underway, it is going to be a failure. A massive failure. This person put out a video saying war with Venezuela will fail. Let's get into this and react. Actually, hang on. I might have to come back to this because I know Trump is supposed to be doing a I know he's supposed to be doing a press conference. Hang on, let me see. Let me go in the White House. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to share this and I'm going to keep an eye on this because it's literally the live stream actually started, but nothing is going on yet. But I'm going to play this and then we will get to the press conference as soon as it comes up. So
here are 3 reasons why Donald Trump's war with Venezuela will fail. The first is simply geography. I think the best comparison to make is with Iraq, because of course the United States did invade Iraq in 2003. They were able to topple Saddam Hussein, but they were unsuccessful as they had to fight an insurgency for the next 8 years. Well, Iraq would look like a walk in the park compared to an invasion of Venezuela. Venezuela is roughly twice as big as Iraq, and it is far more mountainous. In addition, at the time of the Iraq invasion, Iraq had many enemies at its borders. This includes countries that had previously fought wars against, like Iran, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia, as well as major US allies like NATO member Turkey, as well as Jordan to the west. In contrast, Venezuela actually has very good relations with 2 of the 3 countries it neighbors, that being Colombia and Brazil. For instance, in Brazil, there's also actually this group called the Landless Rural Workers Movement that has 1.5 million members, and they have actually pledged that if the United States tries to invade Venezuela, they will form their own militia or brigade to then go and help the Venezuelan government.
So let's stop here for a second, because I think this is very important. So the United States, if they lead a conflict against Venezuela, it's not just Venezuela they're going after. So you have surrounding nations that will also defend Venezuela as well. It's essentially, if you touch Venezuela, you touch the rest of us. Because they know how the United States gets them. They know the United States will actually do whatever it can to take over Venezuela and then spread its tentacles even further across the rest of South America. And so these countries are like, you know what? No, you're not doing this. So these militias are ready and willing. On top of that, the fact that Nicolas Maduro has armed Venezuelan citizens in the millions with weapons in case a ground invasion in America begins. Because right now they're doing an aerial invasion. But if a ground invasion of American troops comes to Venezuelan borders, I'm telling you, American soldiers are going to get straight mollywopped. Because Venezuelans do not play about their land. And they have partners in other countries. So between Colombia and Brazil, this is going to be a dumpster fire if the United States continues this. Let's continue on.
The second reason why a war with Venezuela would fail is because the existing sanctions against Venezuela have actually been insufficient in creating the instability that the United States desires. When the United States invaded Iraq, sanctions had pretty much destroyed the country. The Iraq army lacked the necessary equipment to fight against the United States, and northern mountainous regions were already controlled by Kurdish people rather than Saddam Hussein himself. And as these sanctions were going on, there were very few countries that were actually willing to trade or help out Iraq. In contrast, while the sanctions on Venezuela have been devastating, they failed to create the same level of chaos. Yes, there have been attempts to overthrow the government in Venezuela, but these have also failed. And countries have stepped in to help. You know, for instance, Iran actually sent oil to Venezuela, and there are rumors that Russia has actually sent in hypersonic or at least very powerful missiles to the Venezuelan army. So the Venezuelan army and the Venezuelan people would actually be a lot more able to fight against the United States government compared to what happened in Iraq.
Now, that's another thing that a lot of people aren't considering, is that Venezuela has a ton of support internationally, militarily, internationally. And do you think that DPRK, aka North Korea, is just going to sit aside and allow this to happen? Hell to the no. So guess what? They're also going to have solidarity with them. Also remember, excuse me, Cuba may not have very much of a military, but they have a ton of doctors. So to heal those soldiers and to heal those militias, guess what? Cuba will be willing to send their doctors to Venezuela. And it's not like there's a language barrier because they all speak Spanish. And so they'll go there and make sure that the Venezuelans are taken care of health-wise as well. And you don't think that that Lula da Silva won't at least give some support? He's part of BRICS. Now, that support may be somewhat tacit because Lula can be a little here and there, wishy-washy a little bit. But that's too close to his border. So Lula may go, you know what? We're going to support Venezuela on this one. And so if Brazil, that means the rest of the BRICS countries, because, you know, Brazil and Russia are already right there. China can also go, you know what? We need to send them some support too. Could this be the beginning of World War III? Because now you got Israel, United States, and pretty much the G7 going up against Venezuela, and now they have support of some BRICS countries. Let's go to the final point.
The final thing is also that this war is simply unpopular amongst the American public. The Iraq War was unfortunately actually quite popular, with both Republicans and Democrats supporting it in the hysterical aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. In contrast, war with Venezuela is not popular really at all. 45% of Americans oppose overthrowing Venezuelan President Maduro, while just 17% are in favor. And even amongst Republicans, it's not even a majority. It's only 34% who are in support of this. And actually, public opinion does matter. That's why they always engage in propaganda and try to get the public on its side. So the fact that's unpopular would make the war a lot more difficult to carry out. So there you have it. Those are why this war will fail. Please leave a comment, like, and share. I would love to hear your thoughts as well. Thanks.
So ultimately, this is going to be a massive failure. And many people who are Trump voters, who are not necessarily diehard MAGA voters, are also going to see this as a major blunder, as a major failure, because they wanted that money that's being spent on going after Venezuela. That money should be spent here at home instead of these foreign wars. And yet, here we are. That money that's being spent, remember, every single bullet that's fired, every single bomb that is dropped, every single drone or jet that is flown out, every single ship that is deployed in our seas, and every single boot that is put on the foot of a soldier costs money. And that money is being spent on trying to take over a sovereign nation instead of housing, feeding, clothing, and providing for the American citizens here. So that money's not going to you. It's going to General Dynamics. It's going to Raytheon. It's going to Boeing. It's not going to you or me. It's not going to Big Mama or Pop Pop or TT or Unc. It's going to the big billionaires at the top. It's going to the shareholders of these big, massive corporations so they can get another yacht, so they can get another Bugatti, so they can get another diamond necklace for their side piece. It's not going for you. It's not going for me. And this is exactly what it is. It is 11:10 right now. Donald Trump said that he was supposed to go live at 11. He is on some Florida time right now because he is late. But let's continue on while we wait for Donald Trump. Because honestly, I'm at a point right now where people really need to rise up. And a lot of people are planning on getting out in the streets today over this. So there's actually an emergency protest going on, at least I know of, in New York. There might be one going on here in Orlando. I know that we have a significant Venezuelan population here in Orlando, but this is from the People's Forum. People's Forum says, New York City emergency protest. No war on Venezuela. Stop the bombings. This is going to be at 2 p.m. in Times Square. So, they said early this morning, Caracas was bombed following weeks of threats from Trump that a land invasion of Venezuela will begin soon. This could be the start of yet another war based completely on lies. Over 70% of the people in the United States oppose a new war. Our public funds should be used for people's needs instead. This violence is not in our names. We must refuse another endless war for profits. Not in New York City. Finding emergency action to stand against new war on Venezuela today, Saturday, January 3rd. So this is going on today at 2 p.m. So there's a lot of people that are going to be standing up and coming out because they don't want a war in Venezuela. Let's say hypothetically you are somebody who is more conservative that just wants a safe and secure border. If you stand on that side, you should also be against war with Venezuela, because that is going to exacerbate the amount of people fleeing to the United States in order to escape war, be a war-torn country. If you have war, it's going to be war-torn. So the best way to combat undocumented immigrants coming to our borders, stop ruining their countries, dog. But what is the United States doing? You're doing this. And people should not have to flee their land, their homes, because of what these greedy, parasitic corporations are doing. You're ruining lives. That's exactly what they're doing. They're ruining lives on behalf of corporations. And I keep saying that because people need to get it through their heads. And there's both political parties that are complicit in this. Both. This is why I keep talking about this. Because ultimately, it's 2026. In November, the midterm elections are happening. And are you going to forget about this? It's in January. This is a perfect time to do this because Americans tend to have very short memories. And because of having very short memories, by the time November happens and 11 months from now, guess what? They're going to forget about this. And then they're going to vote in the same people that either stood aside and went on mute when this happened, or for the people that were basically neocons calling for this invasion. They're going to forget all about it. And you know what? How you're going to forget about it? They're going to drum up the culture war again. They're going to start talking about trans issues. They're going to start talking about issues regarding DEI, and they're going to talk about illegals coming into our country. They're going to talk about all of these issues that are culture war issues to get you to forget that they did this BS on today, January 3rd, 2026. They're going to get you to forget about that. And I want you guys to come back to this, clip this, come back to this back in November before the election and remind yourselves of exactly what they did or exactly what they set aside and didn't do anything about. And do not let any Democrat, especially the progressives, fool you into thinking, oh my God, I was against it at the time, when they stay silent. Or they'll just say a few words, but they won't actually go ham on the U.S. government and say, hey, we need to stop this however possible. They're not going to sit there and, hold votes hostage in order to stop the mass murder of Venezuelan people. You're not going to do that. And then you have the people who are MAGA that they talk about, oh my God, these neocons are so horrible, when they in fact are the neocons. The neocons just dress themselves up a little bit better. So now you're falling for it. Don't forget this. So I'm still looking for Donald Trump to go live. I have a few more things that I want to share, but please go ahead and give the stream a like. Helps me out very much. Thank you so very much to everybody who's watching. This helps me out very much. And thankfully, I got my monetization back. So also just let you guys know, memberships are also live again as well. So if you guys want to become members again, you guys have that opportunity. I did have a few before I got demonetized back in 2023. So memberships are back and open again. And also, just to let you guys know, I do also have a Patreon. Let me share the tiers and thank the patrons on Patreon. So here are the tiers. We have Mega Jaybefaunters, we have Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters. We have Comrade, Solidarity, and JB members. And thank you to all future new members. It's deeply appreciated. And thank you very much for supporting the channel. You guys can also support me on PayPal as well. That's also linked in the description down below as well. So thank you so very much for that. Let's go to, let me see. So I didn't get to say hello to anybody in the chat, but we're going to look at Holly. Thank you very much. Says, hi, JB. This is very upsetting. Absolutely. Mr. RS J84 says, what's up, JB? Good to see you as well. Sean coming in saying, I'm absolutely floored that I'm going to be looking up the sky for a long while because y'all can't trust nobody. Yeah, can't trust none of these people. Eid said, our government is completely out of control. Absolutely. They are absolutely out of control. Lee said, I just woke up to this. So did I. So did I. Let me see. We have Byron saying, same game we played back in 1954, toppling Jacobo Arbenz on behalf of Sam Zumuri and his United Fruit. Always using little twists here and there on the playbook. Edward Bernays was paid to write. Yep, absolutely. I'm just making sure to check to see if Donald Trump is live yet. He's on that Florida time, so he is still going. He's still taking his sweet little time, probably trying to get his comb over right. Let me see. Left Wing National says, my third party vote looks better and better every day. Same. Oh my gosh. You know what I mean? But the thing is, like, even if I didn't vote, I still feel better knowing that I did what is even better than voting, was just doing mutual aid in my neighborhoods. Right? That's the best thing that we can do. And building dual power. That is the best thing that we absolutely can do. And I'm going to try to go even harder on mutual aid this year. Like, how many times did I do mutual aid last year? I volunteered and did mutual aid maybe like 10, maybe 11 times last year. I'm going to try to go even harder this year. But yes. Fluffins says oil equals Rockefeller family and their bank, JP Morgan Chase. Chevron is just a branch of Standard Oil after its make-believe breakup by Teddy Roosevelt. Yep. Absolutely. I forgot about Chevron, but yeah, Chevron also, besides ExxonMobil, yeah, Chevron too. And he said Beelzebub means Lord of the Flies, the book we all had to read to learn about Hobbesian human nature. I was taught that Beelzebub means Lord of the Flies and owner of the dung. All right. Unemployed scholar says imperialism is in deep trouble. The attack on Venezuela is not a fun place. It's not from a place of strength. The African People's Socialist Party plenary, the planning conference of the African People's Socialist Party, will be on April 17th to 19th. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. I'm not sure if they're going to be in St. Louis or are they going to be in St. Petersburg. But if they're in St. Petersburg, that would be cool for me to go to. I would like to do that. But yeah. Jace Hart said Rome is live right now too. Yeah, I found out right before I went live. I already had planned on going live, so I didn't know he was going to be going live. But yeah, I'm hoping he's doing really good over there. Let me see. Lawrence says, lock up Corporal Bone Spur. Absolutely. Thank you so very much for that. Corporate Bone Spur. This is actually a really good question on the Rumble side. What did Marjorie Taylor Greene know? She knew quite a bit. She is, but at the same time, I'm hoping that she learns more about how the system operates. Holly says, JB, did you see Coming Home? I don't know what that's about. You might have to enlighten me a little bit more. Roger, good to see you, says 10:57 on my end. I just woke up. What time JB started? At 10:10. So yeah. Man. Leonili says we are experiencing World War III. Nobody wants to admit it. Unfortunately, I think you're correct. Thank you so much, Roger. Says, give a brother his monetization back and he think he can come on anytime. Yeah, this is something that I woke up to because and it was kind of interesting. I was so exhausted last night and I saw there was a full moon. I'm like, man, I'm going to sleep. And so, yeah. Tydro says, I won't, and our own president is out of his mind, and the looting is a financial colonialism collapse for 2026. Now you're old. Slave master still the same thing. They just changed the titles. And then it says, pay me now. That's the capitalist show. Yeah. A court lord says, did they really go in and get Maduro? So, in fact, that's a really good question. Let me share this as well. Because Donald Trump apparently, Donald Trump apparently claimed that they did. This is a claim that Donald Trump said. So this is from the White House, and then what Donald Trump said on Truth Social. I'll read exactly what Donald Trump said. He said, the United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolas Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. This operation was done in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement. Details to follow. There will be a news conference today at 11 a.m., his late ass at Mar-a-Lago. Thank you for attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So he is claiming that they kidnapped Maduro. That's just what Donald, and that's what I meant by a high-ranking official said that they kidnapped him. Now, as for him actually being kidnapped and in U.S. custody, that hasn't been substantiated by evidence yet. I'm seeing a photo around, but I don't know if it's legitimately like an actual one or AI, which is sad because AI is now being used to make it look like something that's not actually happening. Yeah, Leroy says this ish is nuts. Yep, absolutely. That's what's happening right now. Thank you very much for the super chat, Roger Meadows. He says, I turned away for 2 minutes. So he's being flown to New York City and to be tried under federal charges under the Southern District of New York. I sent you DM about Maduro. Thank you very much. In fact, that reminds me of this that I wanted to share because Pam Bondi also recently actually confirmed she's saying that he's been taken in. I want to share this as well. Make sure I have my hands on it. Hang on. Make sure I have to refresh this. All right. I know Pam Bondi also just confirmed this as well. Let me make sure. There we go. So I'm going to show you what Attorney General Pam Bondi recently said. Let me see. Donnie is late. Anyways, let me share this. All right, so here's from the Attorney General Pam Bondi. She tweeted, she says, Nicolas Maduro and his wife Cilia Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. Nicolas Maduro has been charged with narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices against the United States. They will soon face the full wrath of American justice on American soil and American courts. On behalf of the entire United States Department of Justice, I would like to thank President Trump for having the courage to demand accountability on behalf of the American people. And a huge thank you to our brave military who conducted the incredible and highly successful mission to capture these two alleged international narco traffickers. And it's kind of funny because if you knew that they are, then why did you put alleged? Pam Bondi, if you know that this to be true, why did you put the word alleged? I'm sorry. Bells are coming around. They're ringing in my head right now. I'm just like, what? You're the Attorney General. Okay. Thank you very much for this. Elizabeth says Rome finished. Okay. Yeah, this is basically World War III. Leroy says it's almost like the U.S. thinks that One Piece being popular means that they can commit pirate acts. They fail to realize Luffy fought the world government. I gotta watch One Piece, but yeah, absolutely. Oh, Roger Meadow says the vid I sent show how when Bush did this, the coup collapsed. All right, let me see. Thank you very much for this, Roger. Hang on. I'm just trying to make sure that I don't miss President Trump going live. I got to refresh to make sure I didn't miss anything. What? Hang on. What's going on here? Damn, he's still not live yet? Jesus Christ. Anyway, All right, let me share this. All right. So this is how the U.S. tried to destroy Venezuela, but Chavez and Maduro fought back.
2002. When millions of people filled the streets of Caracas, the air was thick with chants of Chavez renuncia, Chavez resign. Television stations had gone silent, replaced by patriotic music or blank screens. Army trucks rolled through the capital. Soldiers stood watch at every intersection, and for a brief moment, it seemed as if the Bolivarian Revolution was over. Just hours earlier, Hugo Chavez, Venezuela's fiery populist president, had been arrested by his own military officers. For years, he had defied the country's old elites and challenged the most powerful empire on earth, the United States. But now it seemed his time was up. That same night, a businessman named Pedro Carmona, head of Venezuela's largest employers association, declared himself the new president. Within minutes, the U.S. government officially recognized him. To many, it felt as though Washington had been waiting for this very moment. But this story, like all stories of empires and rebellion, did not begin that day. To understand why Venezuela erupted, we have to go back decades, to the time when the country's enormous oil wealth was both a blessing and a curse. For most of the 20th century, Venezuela was one of the world's richest oil producers. Its wells supplied fuel to the United States, its cities gleamed with modernity, and its elites enjoyed European lifestyles. But beneath that wealth lay a sea of poverty. In the 1980s, global oil prices collapsed. The Venezuelan bolivar lost its value. Ordinary citizens saw their wages disappear, while the rich moved their money abroad. Successive governments, controlled by two old political factions, Acción Democrática and COPE, kept swapping power, promising reform but delivering only corruption.
What does that sound like to y'all? Two parties swapping every cycle or so, promising change and reform, but only delivering corruption? That sounds like who? The call's coming from inside the house, ain't it? My goodness. Let's continue on.
Amid that despair rose a young military officer with piercing eyes and a gift for oratory, Hugo Rafael Chavez Frias. He believed Venezuela had lost its soul. The country's oil, he said, belonged to the people, not the oligarchs. In 1992, he led a failed military coup against the government. It was a desperate, almost suicidal act. But when he was captured, something unexpected happened. On live television, the young officer, handcuffed and calm, took responsibility. For now, he said, our goals have not been achieved. Those two words, por ahora, became a symbol of hope for millions of poor Venezuelans who had long been ignored. 6 years later, in 1998, Chavez ran for president. His campaign was simple but powerful. End corruption, share the oil wealth, and build a new Venezuela based on social justice. The people responded. He won in a landslide. The Bolivarian Revolution, as he called it, had begun. Chavez moved quickly. He rewrote the Constitution, nationalized key industries, and launched massive social programs known as missions. With oil money pouring in, he built schools, clinics, and housing for the poor. Illiteracy plummeted, healthcare expanded, and millions felt hope for the first time in generations.
So this is exactly what happens when the money that is used instead of for the corporate parasites actually take that money and put it inside of the communities that are most disenfranchised. This is what happens. Healthcare expands, housing expands, literacy goes up. Look at all the countries that actually had socialist revolutions. What is the number one things that actually increases? Literacy rates. Compare that to whenever when these capitalist countries take over, the capitalist countries take over any of these countries in the global south, literacy rates go down, crime goes up. Why? because then the people are forgotten. The resources are extracted. So therefore, things become more precarious. If you take away the precarity by putting the powers in the hands of the people, things become safer. They become more secure. And people who are alive in 98, I was alive in 1998. So if I was in Venezuela, I would have remembered the Bolivarian Revolution taking place. So somebody who's my age right now in Venezuela, they're remembering right now going, wait, our lives actually improved when Hugo Chavez came in. So seeing that improvement, no wonder why. Basically, anybody that's pretty much 30 years of age and older remembers how things got better under Chavez. And then who was next in line? Because Chavez died from, I think it was stomach cancer. It was Nicolas Maduro who continues it. And now they're looking at Nicolas Maduro, and he's trying to continue it, but the United States continues to place sanctions and intensify those sanctions against Venezuela. And the people in Venezuela are not dumb. They know exactly what's going on. So they're not going to sit by and go, wait, well, things are getting worse, and it's all because Maduro's fault, or it's all because Chavez's fault. No. They know who's behind it. Because their leaders are literally telling them the truth. Like, hey, we're trying to do what we can, but the United States is making things worse. You got to remember, the U.S. dollar is the world's reserve currency. So it's easy to do sanctions. This is why BRICS is so much of a threat to them. Because if BRICS creates their own currency, that means that the United States may cease to have the dollar as the world's reserve currency, which means that they can't do sanctions. And if they can't sanction them, that means that these countries that they deem a threat because they won't allow them to just take their resources willy-nilly, ultimately, they're going to thrive.
But Chavez also made enemies, powerful ones. The old elites, the media, and business magnates accused him of turning Venezuela into a dictatorship. The United States, which had long considered Venezuela its reliable oil supplier, was alarmed. Chavez openly befriended Fidel Castro in Cuba, spoke of socialism for the 21st century, and denounced U.S. imperialism. For Washington, this was unacceptable. A Latin American country sitting on the world's largest oil reserves had just turned against them. By early 2002, tensions reached a boiling point. Opposition leaders organized a massive general strike. Protests erupted. The private media broadcast anti-government propaganda around the clock. In April, parts of the military rebelled. They surrounded the presidential palace and arrested Chavez. As news spread, U.S. officials immediately signaled support for the coup. Otto Reich, a senior American diplomat, had reportedly met with Venezuelan businessmen and opposition figures days before. Pedro Carmona, the US-backed businessman, declared himself interim president. One of his first acts was to dissolve the National Assembly and the Supreme Court. That decision proved fatal. The very institutions that had tolerated the coup now turned against him. On the streets, tens of thousands of poor Venezuelans, Chavez's loyal supporters, rose in anger. Soldiers who remained loyal to Chavez joined them. Within 47 hours, the coup collapsed. Carmona fled. Chavez returned to the presidential palace in triumph. That moment changed everything. The man who had once been a populist became, in the eyes of millions, a revolutionary hero.
And remember, who are the people who are behind Chavez? It was the poor. Why would the poor be behind him? Because they were the ones who were affected the most. They were. And so when people talk about when it comes to, oh, these people are dictators, what thing they're leaving out is that these dictators, right, are people who are harshest against whom? The wealthy, the rich, the capitalists. That's who they are harsh against. And to them, that's a carnal sin. Because it's supposed to them, it's supposed to be the reverse. You're supposed to be giving more benefits to the rich, not the poor. But that's not what is going on in Venezuela. That's not what happened in Cuba. That's not what's going on in China or DPRK or in Mali, Burkina Faso, in Niger. And that's something that a lot of people don't know about. What Burkina Faso did to France is basically a copy of what Hugo Chavez did to the United States. It's a copy of that. The only difference is the United States is much more militarily aggressive. And so the United States is like, oh no, we're going to get it back. But I'm going to tell you right now, it is not going to be good for the American people. All right, so I am going to see if I can go to this live because let me see. Okay. All right, so we're going to break from this, and then I'm going to go to this live stream from President Donald Trump in his press conference, and we shall break it down. Wait, where's the sound? What?
We appreciate you being here. Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones like the attack on Soleimani,
Okay, I'm gonna stop there. The attack on Soleimani, God, I can't even pronounce the name correct. If you're gonna talk about it, get the name right, Donnie. But the attack in Iran against General Qasem Soleimani was also a dumb move by the United States because it could have led us into World War III, and that happened. That happened right before. I think that happened right. I think it was in 2020. I think it was in 2020. It might have been somewhere around 2020, but in like early 2020, I think it was like January. But that attack against Qasem Soleimani, right, was an attack on somebody that was literally fighting terrorism. He was fighting Al Qaeda. Now, juxtapose that with Who is now the leader of Syria? Somebody that's in Al Qaeda, the terrorist organization, who was hosted at the White House with Donald Trump. So that means that Qasem Soleimani was actually fighting terrorism while Trump was hosting it and getting them dinners at the White House. So if this tells you anything about what the Trump administration is doing, they want to talk about terrorism. Every accusation is a confession. Let's continue on.
Attack on al-Baghdadi and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer, all perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark and it was deadly. But captured along with his wife, Cilia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. It's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days.
Or how about the embarrassment of the murder of North Korean fishermen that were ultimately murdered by the U.S. regime? That was also a blunder. Murdering civilians. Or more recently, how fishermen who were Venezuelan were murdered in Caribbean waters just because they were in a fishing boat getting fish. And that was pushed by the Trump regime. That was also a blunder. And so he can talk about, oh my God, this is so magnificent. Dude, you just got us into a world war. You're pushing us further into a world war. Further pushing us into it. Between him and Biden, dear Lord.
They were different days. We're a respected country again, like never before.
No, we're not.
These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea, just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far, with capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have. And you see that even if you just look at the boats. We've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average, 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela.
That's an absolute lie. That's a bold-faced lie, and he knows it. This is the excuse that he's using in order to do regime change, in order to get the oil, to get the resources, just like what Southcom's general had said, to get the copper, the gold, the oil, and the resources. And you also got to remember, people are resources as well, because they also want to have wage slavery of the Venezuelan people is there as well. That's what it's about. So he's using that as excuse, but really it's not because of any drugs that are coming in.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So
we're going to run the country. There it is. Regime change in your face. MAGA, are you listening? There you go. Tulsi Gabbard, where you at? Where you at, girl? Where y'all at? Where's your homeboys at? Who are talking about, oh, we don't want no regime change wars. Guess what? You got it. Are you having buyer's remorse now? Because the billionaire class isn't. The parasite class ain't. And this is exactly why we said, number one, both parties are trash. Number two, this system needs to be thrown into the dustbin of history, because as long as this system continues, you're going to have things like this. The United States will never be America first in a capitalist system. That is the thing that you guys need to take away from this. The United States will never be America first in a capitalist system. I need you to sit with that. Because as long as we continuously allow these parasites to control everything, then the people who constitute this nation will always go without. Because they will suck up and hoard all the resources. And then they will put their tentacles out all over the world and suck up the resources for themselves. And there'll be nothing left for none of us except for them. And it's not about America first. It is about the wealthy first. And they are using our nation and our institutions in order to be able to extract as much resources as they can. That's the point you need to run away with.
We don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, can take place. So we're going to say.
So, welcome to Iraq in the West. Welcome to Afghanistan and the West. Now it's Venezuela. And you know what that means? That means U.S. troops in Venezuela overseeing and policing Venezuelan people. That's what this means. What did that veteran say? He said, if you are in the military, get out. This is your sign. This is your sign right now to leave. God, this is a dumpster fire.
Until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place.
Until such
as everyone
time.
knows, the oil business in Venezuela.
That's indefinitely. God, let me continue.
Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country.
So ultimately, like I said, it's because of oil. And the big oil producers like Chevron and ExxonMobil are going to come in. And the reason why the infrastructure may not be that good is because of the sanctions that the United States put on Venezuela so that they couldn't keep up their infrastructure like they wanted to. And so now they have an excuse going, oh my God, the infrastructure is not good. So we need to come in there and then we're going to own it. And then we'll pump in more oil. We'll pump out more oil. And so now the United States is going to, and Chevron and ExxonMobil, they're going to come in. And guess what? They're going to take ownership of that. And any subsidy that was paying for education, that was paying for healthcare, that was paying for housing in Venezuela, guess what? Gone. Which means that guess what's going to happen? The people of Venezuela, the homeless rate is going to go up. The education rate is going to go down. The healthcare disparities are going to rise. It's all going to happen in Venezuela because the oligarchs are now moving in and they are going to extract as many resources in Venezuela as possible. And this is exactly what's going to happen. And now Venezuela is going to be the new Libya. We're seeing it in real time. All because people thought Trump is going to do what's best for the United States. No, he ain't. He's doing what's best for the parasite class. We've been warning y'all, man. We've been warning y'all.
And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. So
when he says making the people of Venezuela rich, he's talking about the people who are oligarchs or the ones who were under the thumb of the people of Venezuela, because the people of Venezuela said, oh, you're extracting our wealth, our surplus, the surplus resources, the profits from us. So therefore, you're going to be under our thumb because you don't get to exploit us like that. So now Donald Trump is reversing it so that the oligarchs that are still in existence there, because they are greedy, he's going to put them in power. And they're going to be the ones that are going to be oppressing the Venezuelan people. They're turning Venezuela into the United States.
So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans. Hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now, they're on a ship. They'll be heading to ultimately New York, and then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami or Florida. But we have people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law. And I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening
Every accusation is a confession.
not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold suffering and human destruction all over the country, all over, in particular, the United States, Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang, Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide. And he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the feet.
These are all these. Oh my gosh. Ah, Jesus Christ. Look, there was a not CBS. This was a 60 Minutes report that actually talked about the Venezuelan gangs that were detained here in the United States. Most of the people who were detained were not in any Venezuelan gangs. You could have a tattoo of Mickey Mouse and they'll say, oh my God, that's a gang symbol. And then they sent them to a prison in El Salvador where they were tortured in a Salvadorian prison that was backed by the United States. And because CBS News is being ran by a Zionist puppet, because of that, Donald Trump didn't want that report to get out, so they shut it down. Fortunately, that report leaked. I watched the entire thing, and Trump is lying his butt off. His pants are on fire. Because most of the people who were deported weren't even from that gang. If they had any type of gang affiliation, it was of extremely small percentage. And on top of that, Some people were from gangs, not from Venezuela, but from another country. They weren't even criminals in their home countries. They were law-abiding citizens. Let me let this guy finish. Christ and a cross.
Fingers off people if they call police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete and everybody, and our National Guard, because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago. A little bit of a different kind of a threat, but we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have two, on average, 2 a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening. Everyone's happy. They go in, they walk in their daughters, they walk in their children, their wives, they walk to restaurants. Restaurants are opening all over Washington, D.C. So I want to thank the National Guard. I want to thank our military, and I want to thank law enforcement. Been amazing. And they should do it with more cities. We're doing it, as you know, and we're doing it in Memphis, Tennessee right now, and crime is down. We've just sort of started a few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And the governor of Louisiana called, great person, and he wanted us to help him, as you know, in a certain very nice part of Louisiana. And we have done that. And it was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks. New Orleans, it's down to almost nothing. And we've only been there for 2.5 weeks. Can't imagine why governors wouldn't want us to help. We also helped, as you know, in Chicago, and crime went down a little bit there. We did a very small help because we had no working ability with the governor. The governor was a disaster, and the mayor was a disaster. But it knocked down crime. But we're pulling out of there when they need us. We'll know. You'll know. You'll be writing about it. And likewise, Los Angeles, where we saved Los Angeles early on, where the head of the police department made a statement that if the federal government didn't come in, we would have lost Los Angeles. That's long after the fires. That's when they had the riots in Los Angeles. We did a great job. Got no credit for it whatsoever, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We don't need the credit. But we'll be pulling out when they need us. They'll call, or we'll go back if we have to. We'll go back. But we did a great job in various cities. But the place that we're very proud of is Washington, D.C., because it's our nation's capital. We took it from being a crime-ridden mess to being one of the safest cities.
We're talking about Venezuela. Why are you talking about D.C.?
The gangs that they sent, raped, tortured, and murdered American women and children. They were in all of the cities I mentioned, Tren de Aragua. And they were sent by Maduro to terrorize our people. And now Maduro will never again be able to threaten an American citizen or anybody from Venezuela. They won't know.
You know what's funny about all this? What's funny is they couldn't do Maduro like they did Chavez, because over 20 years ago, when they detained Chavez and locked him up, right, with U.S. influence, they did it in Venezuela. So the people of Venezuela rose up and freed Chavez themselves. They took Maduro and brought him to the United States so that the people in Venezuela can't break out their president. That's what they did. Because the people wanted Chavez back. And now the people want Maduro back. But the problem is, that's why they took him out. Because if Maduro was so bad, they would have kept him and made sure that he faced justice within Venezuela against the Venezuelan people. Because if they really believe in the Venezuelan people, then they should have did it there. But they're not. They had to get Maduro out of Venezuela so that they could try to place somebody new there. And also, there is a vice president, and the vice president is standing by Maduro, but now they're saying, oh, well, we're going to run things. Meanwhile, they literally have a government and a process, due process, and how things operate in Venezuela. So they're basically saying, oh, we don't recognize the vice president.
Longer be threats. For years, I've highlighted the stories of those innocent Americans whose lives were so heartlessly robbed by this Venezuelan terrorist organization. Really one of the worst. One of the worst, they say the worst. Americans like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary from Houston. Beautiful Jocelyn Nungary, what happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Tren de Aragua animals. They murdered Jocelyn and left her dead under the bridge. There was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons, a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions. They sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers. They were drug kingpins. They sent everybody bad into the United States, but no longer. And we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and stole American oil, American assets, and American platforms, costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property. We built it. And
it's on Venezuela's land, though.
And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. Instead, they fought wars that were 10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill, and the socialist regime stole it from us during those previous administrations, and they stole it through force. This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country.
What part of it's on their land don't you understand? So ultimately, this is exactly why it is so important for us to stand up against the Imperial Core, because ultimately what they're doing is it's basically a philosophy of if we can't own the world, then nobody else will have it. That's essentially what it is. I can't even stomach this press conference anymore. He's rambling on and on and on. And do you guys want to be subject to that even more? I just don't. And I know that Pete Hegseth will continue. Will want to say a few words. The Secretary of War, and if anything more comes out, I will cover that. But this is going to be bad for the world, and pretty much this will be bad, for us as the people. I'm going to share this as well before I head out because I didn't want this to go over too long, but I'm going to show you guys what Nico House said. Friend to the channel, Nico House, he says, Trump just started a war with Venezuela without a single declaration from Congress, and Congress, including Democrats, are about to let him get away with it with absolutely zero consequences. There's only one party in the U.S., the party of war. Also, my sister Sabi Sab, she chimed in, she said they let Trump do whatever he wants. It's a damn shame. I replied and I said, every single Congress member is a chump, and that is me being kind. Their acquiescence to this power grab shows their complicity in this demonstration of blatant imperialism. The entire U.S. government is and has always been compromised by corporate power. So this is exactly what it is. You do not run this country. The corporations do. They run both parties. Though everything runs on Duncan, basically. So this is why it is so important for us to continuously do what we can to oppose not just war, but oppose imperialism, oppose corporate takeovers of nations. Because let's say hypothetically what Donald Trump says is true. Let's just say hypothetically, right? If that's the case, then why in the world would Nicolas Maduro arm millions of Venezuelans if he is a dictator? They literally could take over the government themselves if he arms them. They are armed. If Venezuela is so horrible, let it fall on its own. Why do you have to do sanctions against them? Why in the world is Venezuela constantly praised for how thorough and how free and fair their elections are? There's a little homework assignment I want you guys to do. And this homework assignment is, this is video that I want you guys to watch. And this is from the Geopolitical Economy Report.
The U.S. government is attacked.
Sorry, with Ben Norton. And I'm going to put the link in the description. But this was put out 3 months ago. It says, Trump's war on oil with Venezuela is based on lies, a real reason why the U.S. wants regime change. Ben Norton did an amazing job breaking this down. And I want you guys to be able to watch it. Because he even gets into the Venezuelan gangs. He even gets into the truth behind that. And this will inform you deeply, especially about what's going on. That Trinidad de Agua, or the Solis gang. I forgot how to pronounce it. But it's not even a Venezuelan gang. There is no actual Venezuelan gang. But that's what they want you to think, right? And so that is a great, thorough report by Ben Norton, talking about the real reasons, and he goes through the details exactly as to why that Donald Trump wants a war with Venezuela. And ultimately, it is the conclusion what I've been saying throughout this entire live stream, is that it is about the oil and the resources, and it is about enriching big corporations, corporate power, so that people will continuously, the rich, wealthy parasites will continue to have the power to exploit and extract all these resources while making billions, if not trillions of dollars off the backs of people, whether they be here in Venezuela, whether they be in the United States. Our military and our service members are going to have to go there to patrol Venezuelan streets because the United States wants to run Venezuela until such a time when they are able to place their own puppet in office. And any uprisings, the United States will make the excuse, oh, well, these are just terrorist supporters, and narco criminals. That's basically how they're going to brand them. So and there was a lot more that I wanted to share as well. But because due to the sake of time, and I don't want this to go too long, I was trying to go less time than this, but Trump goes on and on. But this is exactly why it is important that we fight against this. And we do this by building up dual power and doing mutual aid within our respective local cities, towns, neighborhoods. Because ultimately, we are the ones that will save ourselves. And by saving ourselves, we will also be helping out the people in these countries in the global south that are constantly being put under the thumb of U.S. imperialism, and through imperialism through U.S. vassal states and proxies as well. So keep fighting, guys, because it's not over. I want to get into, and I want to end with this poll. If you guys have not, please make sure to put it to answer the poll. Make sure I enlarge this enough. You see here. So this is out of 74 votes. It says, do you think the U.S. will lead a ground invasion into Venezuela? And 55% said yes. 20% said no. And 24% said, I don't know. I think that if the United States does lead a ground invasion, meaning U.S. troops on the ground trying to take over Venezuela, I think many U.S. troops will die because the Venezuelans will not go down without a fight. They do not want their sovereignty being taken away. And this is going to be proven fatal, not just to the Trump regime, but to anybody who is on the Democratic side that tries to make excuses that, oh, well, we need to stay there in order to have a peaceful transition or whatever. It is going to be bad politically for them. And this is also going to, people are going to be upset as they see caskets with American flags draped over them coming home. So we're basically entering into a new Iraq war and Afghanistan war. But the only difference is it's in the same hemisphere as we are. It's not as far away. So this is one of the reasons why I think it's such a damning thing. And we have midterm elections later this year. And so, honestly, I think we should put more of our focus on actions on the ground. And if you want to vote, then vote third party or independent, but leave both parties behind. Leave the duopoly behind on this. Because neither one of them are going to help us in this situation at all. me see this. Let me see this. So before I head out, I'm just looking to see the super chats before I go. I'll play this because I also want to give this some attention because I think this is really good. Thank you very much. Roger says, before you go, please play X post of Maduro IDM showing how he is the opposite of a dictator. Will do. Let's show this. So, let's listen to this, and then we'll chat about it a little bit before we go.
Sin lugar a dudas, la democracia occidental, la democracia.
He said, without a doubt, Western democracy, the classical democracy they call liberal,
clásica, que llaman liberal,
sí.
has entered terminal exhaustion.
entró un agotamiento terminal. Ya no representa a los pueblos. Son democracias sin pueblo. Son democracias manipuladas, manipulables. Son democracias para minorías. Y cada vez más son democracias que funcionan a partir de los multimillonarios, de los grandes consorcios, y son democracias sometidas a la manipulación de las redes sociales, a la manipulación emocional de las redes sociales. Entonces, la comunidad, el ciudadano, no tiene poder en esa democracia. En lo fundamental, no quiere decir que no haya experiencias positivas en lo que llaman democracia occidental. Claro que las hay. Así que nosotros, desde un principio, nuestro proyecto original, inspirados en Bolívar, en Simón Rodríguez, en Ezequiel Zamora, en el libro azul, el comandante Chávez plantea rehacer la democracia a través de un proceso popular constituyente y rehacer la fórmula de democracia para construir una democracia de todos los días, una democracia permanente, una democracia con pueblo, donde se le dé el poder completo a la gente. ¿Y qué es el poder? En primer lugar, el poder es política, decidir las políticas públicas. En segundo lugar, el poder es económico, decidir los presupuestos, recibir los presupuestos de la nación. Y el poder de la cultura, el poder de la educación. Así que eso es lo que estamos construyendo. El comandante Chávez fundó los consejos comunales, fundó el Consejo de las Comunas, y tú puedes recordar cómo me lo encargó a mí, pero nos lo encargó a todos. Me dijo, Nicolás, agarrándome el hombro, te encargo las comunas como te encargaría mi vida. Cuando él dijo eso, mira, yo sentí aquí en el hombro, ahí al lado de él, el peso de los siglos. Pero afortunadamente nuestro pueblo agarró ese peso y ahora no me pesa.
So part of this also means that he's speaking about the weight of how the country is ran is not on his own shoulders, because that would denote a dictatorship of one. And I said this before, and some people may not understand fully what I mean, but you're going to have a dictatorship either way you go. As long as you have a government, you're going to have a dictatorship. The question is, a dictatorship of whom? You can have a dictatorship of a monarchy. You can have a dictatorship of an oligarchy, right? A corporate dictatorship. Or you can have a dictatorship of the people, right? The working class, the poor, or the proletariat, as some of us in the left like to call it. The question is, who do you want dictating how the government is ran? Do we want Raytheon and ExxonMobil and Eli Lilly and, you know, big pharma. Do we want these big corporations dictating how our country is ran? Because that's exactly what we have. Or do you want it ran by the actual people on the ground? People like you and me. Real political power. And the problem is that who wields the government? It's not us. And because it's not us that wields the government, it is these big corporations. That means they're using the government to do whatever they want on the world stage. This is why America will never be, the United States will never be America first in a capitalist system, because the capitalists want it to be capital first for whom? Them. That's what it's about. It's not America first, it's capital first. Because a lot of people are saying, oh my God, it's Israel first. No, not really. Israel is really also a tool of the capitalists in order to keep an eye on the resource-rich countries in West Asia. And now the United States is also trying to do the same thing in South America because it's resource-rich. And those resources are what the corporations are looking at, and they're saying, oh, we want those. Those are going to be ours. It's not going to be for the people. It's going to be ours. Versus if it was a socially powered nation, a communally powered nation, then it would be the people saying, oh, we want us to command what we want for all of us collectively as the people. And if we want that, then we're not going to be trifling in dealing with nations that will threaten the lives of us or the lives of them. So we see ourselves as mutuals rather than us needing to take power and resources away. So then we keep things America first. And by that, then we don't go and do regime change wars. We don't go and try to take over other countries. And we let them have their sovereignty. And here's the thing, right? Every nation on earth is authoritarian. Every nation on earth is authoritarian. The question is, under whose authority are you under? Would you rather be under the authority of a corporation or under the authority of collectively the people democratically? Which one would you choose? Which one do you have a say in? Because if you say you want a corporation, then let me ask you this. When you go to work, do you have a say in how everything is operated at your job? Tick-tock, baby, tick-tock. I'm waiting. Do you have a say over everything that happens at your job? No, because every single time you go to work, you're going under a totalitarian regime that is called your job, because you don't have a say over everything that happens, right? It's the same thing. So if that's a totalitarian regime, basically being a big corporation, if they own the government, then how are they going to operate the world? How are they going to operate this country? In a what? Totalitarian way. So of course they're doing what they're doing in Venezuela. Let's let the bus driver. Yes, Nicolas Maduro was actually a bus driver before he got into political office, but let's continue.
Mira, los hombros liberaditos, porque nuestro pueblo ahora está ejerciendo la democracia directa. Este año tuvimos 4 consultas nacionales. Ah, claro, para AP, F, CNN, UPI, AFP, para los medios occidentales no existe la democracia directa. Para ellos lo que existe es el ataque permanente contra la Venezuela bolivariana. Pero aquí yo reto a quien quiera debatir, a quien quiera, tenga el nombre que tenga, el cargo que tenga, lo reto a debatir en cualquier barrio que quiera ir de Caracas con nuestro pueblo, no conmigo, que debatan con el pueblo, para que vean cómo se está construyendo una democracia nueva. No pretendemos ser modelo para nadie, pero eso sí, nos sentimos orgullosos de lo que estamos construyendo. Así que al pueblo se está empoderando, forjándose, formándose, 4 consultas, una trimestral, y además este año aprobamos la cifra de 33.000 proyectos populares financiados, construidos, que son obras, ambulatorios de salud, clínicas de salud popular llamadas CDI, escuelas, liceos, vialidad, carretera, infraestructura, casas para abuelos, casas para la juventud. Y pare usted de contar, solución de problemas. ¿De dónde salen los proyectos? De la asamblea vecinal. ¿Y cómo se aprueban los proyectos? No lo aprueba un alcalde, un ministro, un presidente. Yo no le apruebo a esta comunidad, mira, háganle tal cosa, no. Lo aprueba con su voto el pueblo. 33.000 proyectos.
So they're talking about neighborhood councils, basically. Neighborhoods are voting on these things. 33,000 different projects by neighborhood council.
Se invirtieron más de 330 millones de dólares. ¿De dónde surgieron esos 330 millones de dólares? Su equivalente en bolívares surgió de los 14 motores, de los impuestos que se cobran, de las ventas al exterior, del petróleo, esos barcos de petróleo.
From exports of oil. That's how part of it is funded. For all these different infrastructure projects.
Los que salen se conviertan después en obra comunitaria, se convierten en necesidad, en solución a la necesidad. Así.
So yeah, absolutely. And so, like, look, think about all the things that, all the resources we have here, just in the mainland here in the United States. What if those were nationalized, and then the profits that we made from trading with other countries, instead of that money going to the top, there was actually dispensed equally among all of us? And or if we democratically chose, okay, there's going to be, go to your neighborhood polling place. We have these different things that we want for our particular neighborhood, and this money's being allotted. We need you to go to the polling place and vote on, oh, do you guys want revitalize this new park? Or do you guys want these streets? Or it could be a handful of different things, and then we vote on each one of these things, and this money is doled out for our particular neighborhood. And so it's more of a direct democracy. And the funding comes from our resources that are nationalized, and then the money is disseminated to us. How would you feel? Wouldn't that be a little bit nicer? Wouldn't things be a little bit more improved? Wouldn't it be nicer so that we wouldn't have to drive as many cars? We can have mass public transit. How about high-speed rail? Right? You don't have to worry about not having clean drinking water. Just some of the things, right? But instead, we got big corporations that own everything. Roger says, he said the magic word, direct democracy. Dictator? Donald Trump. He has delusions of grandeur. Sloan says Delcy Rodriguez is now the president and is demanding Maduro return together with Venezuelans in the streets. Yep. The U.S. thinks that kidnapping Maduro will lead to regime change. You can kill a man, but you can't kill the ideas. Absolutely. Very well said. Very well said. Julix says, so glad you got remonetized. Congrats. Thank you for all you do. Happy New Year. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for that. This is a good question. A jaded millennial says, what happened to the true and legitimate leader of Venezuela, Juan Guaido? I mean, if Juan Guaido was supposed to be the true legitimate leader, then why not, right? Tia Wheeler says, this year only got started and we already got this BS, right? I love my viewers. Y'all are brilliant. Y'all are brilliant. Hen's teeth. Hen's teeth. He dropped a logic bomb. Says, if nobody can get through our border, how can gang bring drugs in? And they'll be like, oh my God, well, these gangs are coming in from the Biden administration. Okay, well, if you shut down the border back in January, then we shouldn't have any more gangs coming in, right? You allegedly shut down the border when you were president between 2016 and 2020, and yet we still got bad people coming in. And now you've been president for, by the 20th, it will be a whole entire year, and yet we still got these alleged drug dealers that are still coming through our southern border. Sounds like somebody has performance issues. Somebody may want to talk to Melania too about that. Anyways, but yes, performance issues as far as the government goes. My goodness. But I really do hope you guys watch that coverage by Ben Norton, because ultimately, like, he was on it. Jace Hart says, my kids was sick and the insurance wouldn't cover his prescription. They wanted $600 for the drug. Over-the-counter knockoff was $8. It's crazy, right? Why are we dealing with this when we could take those resources from our natural resources, and instead of giving it to the people at the top, why don't we just nationalize it and then give it to the people? Like, we literally do that in Alaska. Don't come to me and say, oh, well, we can't do that. That doesn't exist in the United States. It exists in Alaska, bro. They literally get oil subsidies and disseminate it to the people. They literally do a UBI with oil subsidies in Alaska. If we can do it there, then we can do it in the lower 48. But they don't want to. Why? Because they want to keep all that money for themselves at the top. And don't get me started on the North Dakota Public Bank, or the Public Bank of North Dakota. Baby, they can do all these infrastructure projects and then actually help save the people. This is why the Bank of North Dakota and North Dakota, the state, was actually able to weather the storm of the 2008 crisis easy, because they had their own public bank. But that means that the people would need to rise up and demand having things like this. Out of the top 5 banks in the world, 4 of them are Chinese. And China believes in public banks. And they were able to lift 800 million people out of poverty, out of absolute poverty. If China can do it, then why can't we? We got more money than them for now. You see, this is what I'm talking about. It's never really about America first. is when they say America first, they're talking about American billionaires first. And some of these billionaires aren't even American. Just ask Elon Musk. So Roger says, where voters craft and approve and ratify their own laws and amendments. That's what I want you to take notice of. Maduro for U.S. president. I see you, Roger. I see you. Roger says, dictators don't arm their citizenry and wish to extend full legislative power to the citizenry. Why in the world does Nicolas Maduro sound more democratic than any of our presidents? Mr. RSJ84 says, remember, all that damn oil they want to steal from Venezuela, it's not coming to the hood. Reparations for Black Americans now and free Venezuela. That money ain't coming to us, bruh. So all my Black Americans out there, they're going to send our young ones to be there in Venezuela to tell the Venezuelan people how to run their own damn country and then losing their lives over it. And we still ain't got our reparations since 1865 that we were owed from General William T. Sherman when he did Special Field Order number 15. We still ain't got our reparations, and yet they want to take that oil and give it to the billionaires. They want to give it to Chevron and Exxon. They don't want to give us any type of reparations whatsoever. They're using that money that they should be giving to us for reparations to go to war with Venezuela. They're using that money that they should be giving us for reparations. They're using that to give to Israel. They're giving $40 billion to Argentina. You want to know where our reparations money goes? Ask Beelzebub Netanyahu. Ask Javier Milei. Ask the owners of Lockheed Martin and Boeing and GlaxoSmithKline. Ask the people who are these billionaires. Ask them. Ask the owners of JP Morgan. Ask the big bankers. Ask them where our reparations money is. Where's our reparations money from Wells Fargo? From Aetna? From Harvard? That's where that's who got it. Where's our reparations money? Why are you building oh my gosh. Why are you building a stupid addition to a banquet hall in the West Wing of the White House instead of using that money to pay us reparations? JB, what is that, Nebraska? Does for power what North Dakota does for Public Bank, another red state. All right, guys, I got to get going. I'm way over time, but ultimately, this is what's going on in Venezuela. We need to resist this. I do know that there is actually. Let me see. Is there a protest happening in Orlando? I wonder. There might be. Okay. Hang on. Florida Palestine Network. They are the homies. They're also talking about Venezuela. Let me see this. I wonder if they're going to be doing a protest today. I don't know of any protests in Orlando. I do know the Florida Palestine Network just spoke out against it. But if I see anything, I'll post it on Twitter. But guys, I will keep up with this as much as possible. And look, continue to speak out against this. I don't care if you're conservative, you should also be against this too, because this goes against your conservative values. This goes against, and look up, don't go by the State Department narrative. Get primary sources and focus on what's really going on. Even if you're conservative, this is literally going against your values, because this is going to lead to more regime change wars. This is going to kill more American lives. This is money that's being spent abroad for big corporations instead of us here at home. And if you're somebody that's pro-life, this is something that is going to be ending lives all over. If you're also for strengthening the border, this is the wrong way to go about it, because guess what? This is actually going to increase the amount of people needing to flee. And guess what? They're going to come here instead. Now, that's if you're a conservative. This is exactly what's going to happen. Conservatives should also be anti-imperialist too, because all it does is that it ruins what's going on here at home. It makes it even worse. And these big oligarchs and corporate parasites, they are ruining our livelihoods. This is why we have to work so much more. This is why we can't spend time with our families. This is why when it comes to our healthcare and housing and education, it's going down. And don't focus on the culture war, because the culture war is a distraction. That's a distraction. All right. Somebody who is who has stubble on their face and wearing fishnets and is spritzing perfume at a counter in Bloomingdale's is not the reason why your rent is stagnant. Your rent is going up or your pay is stagnant. They're not the reason. Focus on the real enemies, the people who are wearing these $5,000 suits and sitting in boardrooms. Focus on them. Focus on the people who own people like Donald Trump and Kamala Harris and the White House. Focus on the people who own all of our members in Congress. Don't focus on the people who don't have power. They're not really the reason why our country is going through what it's going through. It's the big corporations that are doing that. And now you're going to have to realize, here's what you're going to have to realize, that you have more in common with people, with somebody who has a septum piercing. You're going to have way more in common with them than you ever will with an Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or Beyonce. You're going to realize you have way more in common with them, because ultimately the people who are ruining our country are the people are making it so that they own everything and we have nothing. And this is why they're trying to take over Venezuela. All right, guys. Thank you guys so very much. Let me check to see if we have any Rumble rants. I don't remember going into Rumble to see if we have any Rumble rants. And I also need to see if we have any gifted subs. If I did get any, then I might have missed it. I hope I didn't. But thank you very much. And let me check on Kick to see if I have any gifted subs. And yes, guys, I am on Kick as well. Okay, we're good on Kick. All right, perfect. All righty. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so many. Thank you so many people who who super chats, as well as people who are patrons on Patreon. And I wish that I started my live stream on a brighter note for 2026. This is literally my first live stream of 2026. But I had to bring this to you guys because this nation is cooked and we need to get together, and we have to, you know, like Janet Jackson said, the knowledge. We now have the knowledge, and now we have to use our resources, our time, and our energy in order to be able to build up our neighbors and get to know one another and build up something better than what we have now. So, guys, thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. Here's to a wonderful and inspiring 2026. Whatever issues that you may come, I hope you guys overwhelmingly overcome it and are resilient. And I'm hoping that all of you have many more victories than you do defeats. In fact, I wish you have quadruple more victories than you do defeats. Defeats do happen, but I also hope that you are very resilient and continue to prosper despite them. And yes, there will be ups and downs this year, but at the same time, I have faith that we will be able to get through it better. And also remember, you are not alone. That's why we need to continue to have solidarity with one another. All right. Water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. Y'all know. I will see you guys in the next one. I'll see you guys actually on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as always. And I bid you guys a farewell. And forehead kisses. Take care, everybody. And solidarity with Venezuela. Take care. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here.